Hello and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. How are you all? Happy Sunday. I hope you're having a lovely, lovely day. I'm shortly off out for lunch at a pub with my for my friend Ryan's birthday, so that's very exciting. And we're going to Bluebird Tea on the way, which is even more exciting because it means I get to get tea. Even though I said I wasn't going to buy any more tea, but I don't really get to Bluebird Tea very often. That was almost said all in one breath. Today I am showing you the books that I'm planning on reading in the month of May. I'm going to start with book club books and then move swiftly through because I've selected quite a few books and I've got a few sort of like things that I've just decided to read. I've literally just pulled them off my shelf now, so blah blah blah, let's get on with it. So the first thing I was going to talk about is book club books. Now my book club at work, I run a book club at work with people I work with, weirdly, and we've just put back, so the May meeting was supposed to be on the 1st of May, however nobody had started the book, so I've pushed it back by a month, but I've still got to read the book that we're reading in June in May also. So the book I've got to read by a week tomorrow is Tana French, The Trespasser. This is a library copy, so very shiny. This is a crime thriller. It's like, I know this sounds weird, but it is like literally head to foot in font. It is the smallest font ever. I don't even know what this is about. It says, there's the murder squad, you set your soul. So this is the third in a series, but I'm told you can read them in any order. I've never read any Tana French before, but I've heard good things in terms of like crime thrillers and stuff. I haven't read a crime thriller for a long time. It says, tonight's case isn't it. Oh, I've missed something. Uniforms call it as a slam dunk domestic, except when Conway takes a good look at the victim's face, she realises she's seen her somewhere before, and she knows there's a different answer, and it takes her breath away. So I believe it's about a woman police officer who's living in a sort of men's world of police workers. Yeah, so I'm going to start this evening and see how I get on with it. Then my other book that I'm going to be reading for book club at work, which is our June read, which I haven't got from the library yet, is Shantaram. I've forgotten who it's by, and I don't know much about this apart from a few people have recommended it to me and said it's really good for people who like travelling, like not me, or who are travelling, not me, and it's quite a long read, and I've also picked a few more long reads for this month as well, because I'm 12 books ahead of my Goodreads schedule at the moment. I wanted to read 100 books this year because I was planning on reading a few longer books, so that fits in quite well that I'm going to be able to read. I'm going to take a bit more time. However, I've got just as many books on my TBR this month as I would if I wasn't picking all long reads, but I've specially selected 3 other books that are over 500 pages just because I've got a bit of time on my hands this month in terms of catching up and things. And then the last book is for my online book club that I run on Facebook with a few people I know, and it's a memoir and it's called Look What You Made Me Do by Helen Walmsley Johnson, and the tagline here is Not All Abuse Leaves a Mark. So this is a memoir about a woman who suffered abuse at the hands of her husband for many, many years, and what attracted me to this was that I listen to The Archers, which is a Radio 4, like, what is it, a series, I guess, which follows a village and lots of different characters. And just after I started listening to it, last January, there'd been a storyline where a character, Helen, had she'd been subject to abuse, both physically and mentally, I believe, from her husband Rob, and it ended quite catastrophically, and that's what gave this Helen, her namesake, the courage to come forward and explain what had been happening to her. So that's what drew it to me. But I do enjoy memoir, and I've read the first sort of 20 pages of this and thought it was well written. So that's what I'm reading for my online book club. But onwards. Oh no, and then one more thing I want to talk about is that I don't often talk about the audiobooks that I'm planning on reading. However, I was talking to Ollie Bliss when we went to the booktuber meetup last weekend. My goodness me, it feels like a million years ago because it was so hot then and it is now really cold. And he was saying he'd been listening to the audiobook of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I wanted to reread Rebecca at some point this year, and I feel like maybe this now might be the time, and I think I'm going to listen to the audiobook because also another of my favourite books, Americana, by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, I read a few years ago. I've listened to the radio, why do I keep saying it's because I'm thinking about The Archers, to the audiobook of this year, year, so I thought, oh, maybe I'll listen to, maybe I'll reread my favourites, but listen to the audiobooks of them. So I think I'm going to listen to the audio of Rebecca this year as well, this month as well, so that's quite exciting. I've got a few books here that I've recently received and that I'm really, really excited about and that I want to read this month as well. And that is, first of all, this arrived yesterday, and that is The Surface Breaks by Louise O'Neill, which is a retelling, a feminist retelling of The Little Mermaid. And I read Almost Love earlier this year by Louise O'Neill, and I absolutely thought it was amazing. I gave it 4 stars. I'm really, really thinking about restarring it and giving it 5 stars, because I literally haven't stopped talking about it and thinking about it, and people who've read it, I have really in-depth chats with them about the things that happened in there. So Louise O'Neill, although I really enjoyed Only Ever Yours and Asking For It, I thought Almost Love was fan-bloody-tastic, and I'm very excited to read The Surface Breaks, which is out in this month as well, so that's exciting too. I also got sent from I got sent this from Hotkey Books, which is The Electrical Venus, which is a YA story. I really, really like this front cover and all like the little fun things it's got. It's got like a parrot and a feather, star, little tightrope walker. It says it's hard to earn your keep in the filth and thrill of a travelling sideshow in Georgian England, but when Dr. Fox, a gentleman stranger, joins the fair, Mim gets top billing at last as the Electrical Venus. Now each night men jostle to pay a penny and receive an electrifying kiss from her lips. But is this starring role her true value? Is love worth more than a penny? When love comes, does it feel like a spark? And one thing I really, really like about Hotkey Books, and I don't often read Hotkey Books because they're YA and it's not my favourite genre, but they do this little key here, so it tells you what's in the book. So as you can see here, it says love, electricity, travelling fair and enlightenment. So I just thought this would be quite fun to read this month as well. And then the last book that I've recently got my little hands on is Disobedience by Naomi Alderman, who wrote The Power. David bought me this for Easter, and the film is either out or coming out very, very soon, and it is about a woman, Ronit, whose father, who's a respected rabbi, he died, and she returns back to the family home where she hasn't really had the happiest of upbringing, and reconnects with her her former girlfriend. The trailer is really what drew me to this, which has got Rachel McAdams and Rachel Weisz in it, double Rachel. And yeah, so and then I saw that they'd re-released the front cover in a similar cover to The Power, so I asked David for that. So I would like to read this before I get to see the film, and whether or not I get to see the film at the cinema, I may well have missed it. If not, I'll definitely watch it when it comes out, but yeah, that's another one. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I am really far ahead on my reading goals this year. I said I wanted to read 100 books this year to allow myself a bit more time to read bigger books, which I haven't really done. I've been taking note of what books I've been reading and how many pages they are and things like that. I've been using Sophie from Portal in the Pages spreadsheet. Thank you, Sophie. Every time I open that spreadsheet, I'm like, thank you, Sophie. And on that, it documents how long the books are as well. And I really haven't read that many long books. So what I've just done is I've pulled off 3 long books from my shelf. And I hope to get to at least one of these this month. Now, I've got one that I definitely want to go to. So I'm not sure which ones I'm going to go to afterwards. I'll start with the one that I definitely want to go to. And that's The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. Now, this looks massive. It's 589 pages long. Simon gave me this and said that I would absolutely love it, and my friend Emma just read it on her holiday. She got it out from the library but had to return it, and she said, oh, have you got a copy of that? I'd love to read it. And she said it was amazing. So it follows a character, Cyril Avery, who's born out of wedlock to a teenage girl cast out from her rural Irish community and adopted by a well-to-do if eccentric Dublin couple via the intervention of a hunchback redemptionist nun. Cyril is adrift in the world, anchored only tenuously by his heartfelt friendship with the infinitely more glamorous and dangerous Julian Woodbead. At the mercy of fortune and coincidence, he will spend a lifetime coming to know himself and where he came from, and over his 70 years and 10, he will struggle to discover an identity, a home, a country, and much more. And I've only heard good things. Like, Emma said how wonderful it was, and Simon also said that as well. So yeah, this is one that I definitely want to read. It's so heavy though. It's nice and floppy though, so it opens like, so I could read it like at lunch times and stuff when it just opens nicely. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. The next one I've picked up is one that I also got from Simon, and that is a copy of The Woman in White by oh my god, Wilkie Collins. lost it from my mind there. They've recently made a TV series of this. I think it's on the BBC, and I don't know if I'll get around to reading it, but when I was looking for big books on my shelf, this caught my eye because I knew that there was a TV series of it out at the moment. I really don't know what this is about, which is awful. Do I read it out? Because I'm sure everyone else knows what it's about. I'm gonna read it out because there may be one other person out there who doesn't know what it's about. It says here, Marion and her sister Laura live a quiet life under their uncle's guardianship until Laura's marriage to Sir Percival Glyde, a man of many secrets. Could Sir Percival be connected to the strange appearances of a young woman dressed all in white? And what does his charming friend, Count Fosco, have to do with it? Marion and the girl's drawing master, Walter, have to turn detective in order to protect Laura from a fatal plot and unravel the mystery of the woman in white. So yeah, I really like this front cover as well. Very, very good. And then the last one is, which is another one over 500 pages, is The Paying Guests by Sarah Waters. I've only read Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters, which I loved and adored. And I tried starting, I think it was The Little Strangers before. I tried starting The Little Stranger before. Which is also a big book as well. I think a lot of Sarah Waters' books are big books, and just couldn't get into it. I don't know if it was because of the time. It wasn't like I wasn't enjoying it, I just couldn't get into it. So I looked at the longest ones, and this was the longest one she had, and this is set in 1922 in South London, and it's about, it says here, a gentle widow, Mrs. Ray, and her discontented daughter Frances are obliged to take in lodgers. Lillian and Leonard Barber, a modern young couple of the Clark class, bring with them gramophone music, colour, fun and dangerous desires. The most ordinary of lives, it seems, can explode into passion and drama. This is a love story that's also a crime story. This is vintage Sarah Waters. So yeah, I mean, I've got high hopes for this as well. And then the last two books I wanted to talk about. So we all know that the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlisters has now been announced. And one book on there that I'm really keen to read, as opposed to the others which I'm not so keen to read, and that is Home Fire by Camilla Shamsi, which I will definitely be reading this month. And this is about siblings Isma, Anika and Parvez, and they've had nothing but each other. And then Parvez gets divided from his sisters and goes to the other side of the world. And I believe it's linked to ISIS, and it was the jihadist father he never knew. And yeah, I'm very keen to read this. A lot of people, I've read Camilla Shamsi before. I read A God in Every Stone, and I really didn't enjoy it. But so many people have said to me that Home Fire is amazing. So looking forward to reading that. And then the last thing I did, which is a bit random, I've got so many books here on my shelf that I haven't read, and I often overlook them because they've been there for so long. So I've got a shelf of unread books, and then I've got like a favourite shelf and a Harry Potter shelf and a shelf that isn't as pretty, so I don't put out on display and things like that. And quite often I sort of look at them and don't even see them, which is madness. And I said to David, oh, would you come and just pick a book off my shelf and I'll put it on my TBR for this month, and hopefully I'll get round to it. And he come and had a look and he said, okay, I'll pick one. And he picked Lorali by Laura Dockrell, which is one that I've read before, but I am interested in rereading it because I've got the second one also sent to me by Hotkey Books. That's 2 Hotkey Books I'm reading. And he picked it out and he said it was because it just caught his eye because the spine was so pretty. So this is a book about a mermaid, about a boy called Rory who lives in Hastings, which is a place that David and I are very fond of going to as well, and a mermaid gets washed up on his shores. Now I've read it before and I enjoyed it, and I would like to reread it again so I can go on and read Orabelle, which is the second one. But just coincidentally, I went to Lush Book Club last week and met Laura, and she is fantastic and I love her, and I love her most recent book, Big Bone. So yeah, it's just a coincidence that David picked this book, of a book that I was thinking of rereading at some point anyway. So I was going to read it over the summer, although I guess May can sometimes be considered as the summer. I mean, it's not looking the most summery of days today. So yeah, so those are the books that I'm planning on reading in the month of May. What are you guys planning on reading in the month of May? Have you read any of these books before? I would be very, very interested in hearing from you, and I will see you all again on Tuesday for my April favourites. Thanks guys!